Hey everybody, it's meteorologist Jamie Singleton. Sorry for the confusion here. I've got a lot going on. I think we're on Lula and we're doing okay there. I wanted to check that out because that's a way of going directly to where we need to go on social media without having to worry about the cell phone as a backup. But I do have that as a backup. We've got a complex of storms that's coming through in some powerful punches here. And we'll give you a quick tour of the radar. And we'll pop that on for you and let you see what's going on. I was following these out of the Northern Virginia area just a few hours ago. Now, right now, we've got 2 active severe thunderstorm warnings in effect. There's the loop. And the 2 storms that I'm watching very carefully, there are actually several, from western Botetourt County into Allegheny County. And by the way, if you hear the background, those are frequencies, different fire departments from all around these areas that have already been hit and that I predict will get hit. So sometimes that radio traffic can be a little bit of a nuisance. Sometimes it can be a lifesaver when we talk about weather like this. I'm not concerned about tornadic activity this far south. However, we are looking at some hail reports up to 1 inch to a ½ inch around Lewisburg. That also moved across Sweet Springs, where it's still kind of storming around Paint Bank as well as you make your way up 311. This cell's kind of interesting south of Covington. And let me make sure I've got eyeballs on all these. I know I've got responding fire. Yeah, I got everybody. Okay, just making sure. All right, so this is just past Eagle Rock. Eagle Rock, you are actually in the path of this storm, and there may be another warning coming out for you. As you see, the polygon stops right there at Eagle Rock, but these are moving to the southeast at about 40 to 45 miles per hour. So this storm, this whole complex here, has a history, if you look up here, of producing a lot of wind damage here. I'll just read you some of the reports here. 1 inch hail, ½ inch hail. Here's some wind damage. Many twigs down along with 3 or 4 limbs of wrist size in diameter. And let's see, that was in West Virginia as well, not too far from 219 there in the West Virginia. Law enforcement reporting 2 trees down on the interstate on I-64 East. That wasn't too long ago. Allegheny, or the Greenbrier-Allegheny County line, we had 1 inch hail with this. And I feel like that pink that you're seeing right there just to the west of Eagle Rock in the Botetourt County, I feel like that's hail in there as well. I'm going to check on that very quickly. And it looks like my hail prediction is coming true right there from Oriskany and just to the west of Eagle Rock. So if you're in this area around Eagle Rock and Fincastle, especially up toward Eagle Rock, look out. You got some pretty good sized hail there coming your way from the north and west. This is the probability of severe hail as the radar sees it. So it's a tiny little area, but around that you've got all the rain, the thunder, and the lightning. And the big thing with these storms have been the incredible straight line winds. We had straight line winds topping 80 to 90 miles per hour up to the north, up here around Harrisonburg and up across Winchester, and they're still getting storms up there. So it's a nasty complex of storms. The big thing that I had on Patreon today was, how far south and east do these storms make it? If I'm looking at some of the velocity right now in the West Virginia, I can still find some 59 to 60 mile per hour winds and some of these brighter greens. That's pure velocity data. And if you go back and track this through Oak Hill, I put an alert out for Oak Hill, and look at Charleston here. Charleston, West Virginia got slammed with heavy rain, numerous reports of flooding down there from hurricane to Marmet, Ridgeview, near Pinch. I continued down through Whitesville, Kingston, and still looking at a rough situation there. I believe one of the dispatchers is watching me because I just heard myself over the scanner, so it's always a good thing. But you can see a cluster right there around the I-64 area. So let's just put the regular radar on now, because we do have two other storms that have kind of popped up in advance of this. So we've got this big cluster here in southern West Virginia. This is going to drop south with time. I do think it's going to get to Roanoke in at least a shelf cloud. You see that ominous looking cloud off to your north and west? That's probably what that is. It's a cool rush of air that comes out beneath the storm. It can actually outrun the storm. It's like cool molasses that spread out and ahead of the actual storm itself. And sometimes you'll get that to diminish the storm. Other times it can intensify it and create newer storms. But you can see how basically from Warm Springs south is where we're mostly concerned. It looks like they split up right around Warm Springs there in the Monterey. So you've got another cluster of storms that want to continue raining very hard, and flooding is going to be an issue from Harrisonburg. But in Floyd County, we've got new development here from a few outflow boundaries going on south and west of Floyd. Also in the Carroll County, where we've had this little shower that popped up. It looked kind of benign, but we've had a 1/4-inch hail, pea-sized, rice and pea-sized hail reported with that thunderstorm. So these are kind of just sitting here and developing on outflow boundaries. That's going to make their movement kind of hard to predict. But throughout the day, what I've been watching on a lot of the models has been the impression that these are coming out of the north and from the west. So at some point they're going to come off the mountains and they're going to downslope. And there's going to be a bit of a break in the intensity, and then they may regenerate once they get east of the mountains. Of course, that's going to put it by 9, 10 o'clock at night, and by then a lot of our energy may be gone. But if one or two of those storms should survive, it's got plenty of energy to create that severe weather concern. So southern West Virginia, you folks in the NRV and in the Roanoke Valley, though, I think you need to kind of keep your brain there focused on the weather, because it's coming in fast across Botetourt County. We may see a new warning up any time now coming out of Botetourt County, at least the rest of Botetourt County, also in the Newcastle, getting a lot going on there. Let's show you some other stuff, because there's plenty to talk about. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my desktop from across the way here. What you're looking at flashing here, this whole area is a severe thunderstorm watch. The Storm Prediction Center decided to issue that because the conditions were getting pretty unstable outside, and you could see that the storms were probably going to make it this far south. So the area flashing right through here, through Lynchburg, excluding Southside, because we're not quite sure if it's going to make it this far south toward Danville and Martinsville. But you see the filled area here, and you see those temperatures between 91 and 88 degrees. That's a lot of energy. And the red shading and the purple shading is showing you where there's potential spin and where there's potential energy. It's called the Energy Helicity Index. And when I'm talking spin, I'm not talking about tornadoes per se. I'm talking about the organization of these thunderstorms. With wind shear, they can still spin. They may not produce a tornado, but they're going to give you some large hail, and they're going to give you some damaging wind. That could be swirling, that could be straight line. It really doesn't matter, because we've seen winds today topping 70, 80 miles per hour in many of these storms. So I saw the National Weather Service up here in Sterling say that these were tornado-like winds, and I liked that phrasing. That was interesting to see, because it's really all about the impacts. It doesn't matter if it was a tornado or not. You know, it's going to do the same amount of damage if it's got the same amount of energy in the atmosphere. The atmosphere doesn't care. It's got to release all this heat, and that's what happens. So that 91 in Roanoke does concern me, as does the 88 and even the 90 in Charlottesville. Charlottesville, I think you've yet to get hit directly, but you can see all the lightning here off to the west. And again, this is slowly sinking, or actually very quickly sinking off to the south into the east. And with time, what we may notice here is the western edge of this is according to some of the modeling I was looking at, moving more south toward Hillsville and the Mount Airy, Elkin, and Jefferson and West Jefferson. So we'll keep an eye on this area because the models did have that surviving the most. It also had a bit of a break going on. Notice I don't have radar on here. I've just got warnings and alerts so you can see what's going on. Now, it may be a little bit hard to see. Let me get my keyboard mouse going here. But there's a green circle, and I point that out because I was just mentioning this. We had one round of really strong storms coming through the Shenandoah Valley from Harrisonburg up to Orange and Fredericksburg. They've got a new round of severe thunderstorms that are occurring right now. So the Weather Prediction Center is highlighting this area. Let me get my green out to emphasize the heavy rain potential in this area here from Front Royal to Stewart's Draft near I-66 up to Washington here. This area is being watched for flash flooding into the night with these thunderstorms. They can put down an incredible amount of rain, and we can actually show you some of the rainfall rates, but I can tell you they've been between 1 and 3 inches per hour. Some of them have been more than that. You can see that Orange is still under a severe thunderstorm warning, and a lot of these areas, it almost is easier for some areas just to mention who's not under a severe thunderstorm warning. But needless to say, it's a really big event, so we're not going to get tied down into trying to get exactly which polygon is moving where unless I see something that's definitely spinning. But I just want to show you the potential for wind damage from straight line winds and from large hail and from flash flooding is getting very high across Rocky Mountain to Bedford and Buchanan. So it's going to be a busy evening. Let me put this into motion. And it's going to take a second to load, but you can see the National Weather Service putting up 70 miles per hour, 1-inch hail, considerable damage. That is a tagline you don't see a lot. That's a high-end severe thunderstorm warning. That's derecho type damage in a more isolated area. This isn't congealed into a really, prolific derecho, but it's very similar in structure, and it's working off the heat and the humidity that we've got out there. So that's a look at it in motion. Let me stop it here and also show you that we do have a lot of moisture in the air. Our dew points, that'll add more than you think in terms of buoyancy to the air. And it's all about getting that air to rise and rise really quick. You can see Roanoke there at 66, but notice how Lynchburg has a dew point up to 72, 70 in Farmville. So we can draw the 70 degree line now about through here. So all this area has dew points up to 70 or above, and that is some very juicy air. It also promotes thunderstorm development as they continue to work to the south and to the east. We've got a brand new severe thunderstorm warning that now includes the Roanoke Valley area. There are some times there on your screen. Let me see if I can go over here and enhance this a little bit for you. And we're going to move the times, see if I can get that out of the way of the polygon. Yeah, there we go. I'm supposed to be able to grab this and get it out of the way. And I'm going to take off this METAR observation so we don't have too many layers going on. I'm also going to take off the, while we're looking at this, just bear with me. I take off this meso loop here. So now we're only looking at satellite data and severe thunderstorm watches and warnings. And I'm going to even take off the severe thunderstorm watch because that's a given at this point. We only really want to talk about the warnings. So Roanoke Valley right now, you've got just a few minutes of prep time here before this impacts you. I'd say about 10 to 25 minutes in some areas. Then it crosses back into Roanoke County more crosses into Roanoke City, and they're giving you kind of a large lead time here, assuming the storm doesn't increase in speed. It's showing about 40 to 45 to 50 minutes before it gets to Roanoke City. And the National Weather Service, this is a private conversation that we're allowed to have. All the media, all the National Weather Service folks. I can't show it to you on the screen, but I can tell you what it says, and I can contribute to it. It's a pretty neat feature. But the person at the National Weather Service, I've been talking to, Anita, is just telling me she's seeing some growth on the satellite of the southern end of that line. And that's what I was talking about over here on the south side here toward Tazewell and toward the Bluefield area. A lot of growth there. So I don't think these storms are done by any chance, but you can see the arrival times there on your screen if they were to hold together with this first and closest severe thunderstorm warning. You need to treat it as a tornado warning because you need to be in your safe place, and you need to go ahead and get away from windows. Fincastle, Buchanan, Troutville, Daleville, Blacksburg, and Cloverdale all in the path of this potential or this confirmed severe thunderstorm warning that likely has high winds and hail with it. So here it is, the polygon, and you can see how they've been issued throughout the West Virginia area. You can also see whenever you see a damage path like this all the way back here across West Virginia, when you see a lot of the icons showing up and they're consistent, that's a really good indicator that the storms are very serious and they're continuing to produce damage. And now to Allegheny County, we've got 1-inch hail there. So they're hail producers, and a lot of straight line winds here coming into the Roanoke Valley area. They're going to be nearing 81 in Botetourt County here very soon. Also tracking down 64 in the Lexington. And watch out NRV. These storms are trying to do that thing where they split up over Blacksburg and Christiansburg, and that area can't buy a drop of rain, it seems, compared to the other areas, but you are nonetheless under this new polygon. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop it here, and we're going to put up the latest polygon, and I'm going to overlay the lightning so you can get an idea, because that's also been a huge factor in some of these storms. You can see it all. I had to get rid of it because it almost covers the entire screen here from southern West Virginia into Tazewell. I know you can, that's pretty much constant lightning. I know you've got to be able to see and hear that, and I know it's not a good thing. Southern edge of the line, again, intensifying around the Hillsville, Freeze area, Galax up to Hillsville and Fancy Gap, Cana. Floyd seeing the lighter rain. There's a cell that's heavier down to your southwest toward the county line there. But the latest severe thunderstorm warning includes Rockbridge County, the rest of Botetourt County. And boy, that's a nasty looking cell there. It's got an inflow notch showing signs of possible broad rotation to the west of Buchanan, and right up Fincastle there as you make your way up 220. Near Eagle Rock, we were pointing out Eagle Rock a little bit earlier. You can also see that from Troutville to Buchanan, I-81 is just out ahead of the storm, so motorists in that area need to be advised they may have to pull over. And if we see a tornado warning, heaven forbid, or high winds, they're going to have to just hunker down or get into a ditch, and unfortunately in a situation like this. So this storm is moving toward the Buchanan area near the James River. This also includes all of Roanoke, Salem, Vinton, Christiansburg, and Blacksburg. I'm going to read you the entire text now from the National Weather Service as we watch this in motion, moving across your screen. So we've got Buena Vista, Pulaski County, Giles County, Craig County, Rockbridge County, City of Radford, Salem, Botetourt County, Roanoke County, Southeastern Allegheny County, City of Lexington, and Roanoke, Montgomery County as well until 8:30. So again, the lead time here is about 55 minutes. Your hazard is 60 mile per hour winds and quarter-sized hail. The storms were extending from Eagle Rock to Oakville, moving to the southeast at 20 miles per hour. Hail damage to vehicles is expected. I'm going to try to turn one of these computers down if I can figure out which one's making all the noise. I need to hear part of it though. Alright. So locations impacted include Roanoke, Blacksburg, Salem, Christiansburg, basically everybody from the NRV, from Pulaski County into Montgomery County, right up 81 into Roanoke County and Roanoke City, all the way through Botetourt County and Lexington. They have just carpet bombed that whole area with a severe thunderstorm warning, and it's a really good call because you don't want to be putting out 15 or 20 warnings and having, folks like me trying to, get all excited as I do when there's bad weather. Not for the bad weather, but it's fascinating to see these storms in the summertime when there's so much heat to work with. The strongest cell looks like it's near Paint Bank, and that's a lot of terrain in that area, so I'm really concerned with the amount of water coming out of the sky. I can actually look at that, and this shows me that we indeed do have a lot of water there coming out of the sky there in Paint Bank and in Newcastle as well. That's going to lead to some possible flash flooding with time. And that also includes the Eagle Rock area down 220. Lots of cloud-to-ground lightning. Just a horrible time to be on 220. It just moved past 220 now. It's moving closer into the Buchanan area. So if you know anybody in Buchanan, it doesn't have to be you. Maybe you have a friend or family member that lives in Buchanan or near Buchanan or in Troutville. Be the hero. Get on your phone and give them a text. Get on Facebook Messenger or whatever you use and give them a heads up and say, hey, listen, I think you need to go to whatever your weather source is. It doesn't have to be me. But what we do as a community is we like to have everybody letting everybody know when they can. And the studies have shown that lives get saved when people hear it from family members and friends versus meteorologist dorks like me. That's just the way human nature is. So once they combine the fact that the TV stations and the other meteorologists like myself are on the air, and then they hear from their daughter or cousin or whatever, they'll take more shelter. And of course, I'm talking about you, but I'm talking about the other folks that refuse to take shelter when need be here. So with this storm, I'm looking for indications of hail, and I do see it right there. That could also be some debris in the air. Ville densities are pretty high, so that's about 1.72 inch diameter hail there just to the north of Fincastle, and a lot of lightning, so a very healthy updraft with this. We also have a rotation with this. We've got a broad area of rotation. I'll draw it in here. But I don't want to get you too scared because, again, we don't have a ton of shear over the area, but we do have just enough to kind of watch out. So if this were to get closer or stronger, we'd be worrying about a possible tornado. Green is going toward the radar in Floyd County, red's going away. And a lot of times what happens when these storms cross the mountains, they'll develop some rotation and then it goes away, or if the environment is right to the east, it may intensify. So it's a crucial point when they cross the mountains to see what they're going to do, if they're going to die out or if they're going to keep on going. And that's the big issue there. Let's head up to Culpeper and check out here. This area, looking at 1 inch hail there from Madison to Oak Park, the orange. That's a very dangerous storm. That's a severe thunderstorm warning with 40 mile per hour movement to the southeast, near orange, 60 mile per hour winds and quarter-sized hail. That's in effect until 8 o'clock for another 20 minutes or so. And you can see through West Virginia here from Welch to Pineville. I've got them on the scanner. They're probably going to be getting some damage reports in, and we'll be able to hear those live here on the stream. So I know I'm kind of going back and forth between all my sources, but do me a favor, hit that share button. Hit it right now, because what happens is Facebook will say, okay, this video has been online he's been live now for 30 minutes. It's not going to put it in as many people's feeds. and then people don't get the warning that way. Sometimes I've actually had to jump off my live feed and start it over again just to get my viewer numbers back up. But if you can hit that share button, and don't be afraid that you're saving lives here. This is a big high impact event that's sweeping through most of the area. Don't be afraid to hit that share button and let folks know what's going on. We'll tell them. I'll tell them when it's over. This is the water vapor. We've got a lot of dry air actually in the red aloft. And what this has done is it's allowed for the high altitude water in the cloud to evaporate. When you get out of the bathtub or the shower, do you know how you feel cold? It's because the water on your skin is transferred into vapor. And that evaporation needs energy to do that. You don't just take water and make it into a vapor with nothing. It requires what we call latent heat. So it takes the heat with it and it makes it colder upstairs in the cloud. And when you've got cold air upstairs in the cloud, cold air is heavy. It's going to come down to the ground in a real big hurry. And so it's going to bring large hail and damaging wind with it. And I think that's a situation where the dry air actually hurt us today aloft by getting that sunshine out. And we've got the low level moisture, and that wants to rise while the dry air aloft is actually heavier, wants to sink. So storms do serve a purpose. They try to balance things out, but when we get in the way, that's when we start to see some problems. All the way up through DC, you've got reports here between 45 and 50 knot winds. You can see, again, it kind of broke apart here in Monterey, but what I'm showing you here in orange, this is the Supercell Parameter as of right now, and it's actually quite high. This is similar to the significant tornado parameter, but it looks at it in the summer as kind of a different way of looking at which part of the atmosphere to use. Summertime, you don't really need it to be connected to the surface. We look at stuff aloft, and basically this is going to show me more than, say, the significant tornado parameter. You can see from Lynchburg to Martinsville and Stewart, if we can get thunderstorms in this area, if they decide to develop, they will be able to use this spin. Okay, so again, a lot of times we have the ingredients in place. We can't tell you for sure if something's going to happen or not, but we do have at least a lot of energy and a decent amount of wind shear, just enough to get this number ramped off. And you can see, I'll actually show you the significant tornado parameter. It's not zero, it's barely there, but the fact that it is there in the summer, this is primarily a spring product, but we've got some values there around the Lynchburg area that are somewhat elevated. That's cause for concern, so we'll keep our eye on that. Main thing we're watching for is damaging winds, microburst, and large hail, but any severe thunderstorm can produce a tornado if it wants to. And you can see that area right there starting to light up along the Blue Ridge. As I mentioned, when these storms cross the Blue Ridge Parkway, they begin to spin because the column gets stretched. And like an ice skater that pulls in his or her arms when they're twirling, they twirl faster because of conservation of angular momentum. Same thing happens in the atmosphere. So when we can take a storm and get it a little more concise, the size may actually go down, but the intensity of the possible rotation will go up. But all facets here, from flash flooding on, are on the table. I think I've shown you everything I want to show you on that. Now, the only warning we have now, the ones in West Virginia have been dropped, but we do have still this big warning that includes the Fincastle area. What a big storm this is. Let me go to my better mapping here on Radar Omega, and I'm going to go to local radar. We'll go to single site. We're going to go into Blacksburg here, or Floyd County radar. We're going to select our product, high-res reflectivity, and we'll give you a little more of an exact location here from Salisbury, the Dagger Springs, Jefferson National Forest, to Harvey. That's the interstate right there. That storm is just off to your west, and again, it's kind of moving off to the east-southeast. I believe they've got it Let's see, let me make sure. 60 mile per hour 1-inch hail and moving to the southeast at 20 miles per hour. We've seen these basically go from 20 back up to 45 or 50 in terms of movement. The fact that they're slowing down is somewhat good news in terms of limiting the wind potential, but we do still see a lot of wind in these storms as I'm speaking. I'm just comparing it to what we had up near Winchester just a few hours ago. Still though, the hail and the heavy rain, if you're under that, that's going to be an issue for any low-lying areas there on Route 43 from Springwood to Salisbury, getting up to Sugarloaf Mountain. And let's see here, Purgatory Mountain, Rich Hill, getting clobbered right now. And that's Highway 635, 630. This is Buchanan proper here. There's Main Street. So you're in the polygon, which is why it looks kind of yellowish, but you can see the storm here likely containing some hail as I look at it in real time. The other strong part of the storm, unfortunately, is off to the north and west of Roanoke County. So this is 311, as I mentioned. You go through Mason Cove here and Catawba as you make your way to the home place. I don't know if they're still open or not, but you go across into Craig County there, some beautiful country. But right now, they are getting walloped by this storm. So we're going to look at our velocity now and check out how strong those winds are. Pretty close to the radar, so we can get a pretty good measurement here in terms of what we're looking for in terms of if it's severe or not. So let's do that. 44 to 70, 44.74 miles per hour. That's about 50 miles per hour wind going toward the radar. Now, one thing you've got to realize is that's a few thousand feet up in the atmosphere, but you've also got to realize that once this wind hits the ground, and say, why are they calling for 60 mile per hour winds when it's only 38 to 50 mile per hour winds in this thing? So right there on 311, I've got 47 miles per hour. Well, I'm going to kind of draw it for you here. So we're going to go 3D on a 2D map, but just give me a second. So this is your towering cumulus cloud. You've got, what, 47 mile per hour winds going in one direction. At least that's what the radar sees. When these winds come down and hit the ground, they spread out. And guess what happens when they spread out? They accelerate. So they can't go into the ground. They'll go out in all directions. And it's the opposite of a tornado. What they do is it's a microburst or a downburst or just a strong downdraft. That 47 becomes 60 or greater as the storm continues to exhale. The storms breathe. The air is very fluid. It's actually kind of amazing to watch, especially in the summertime when there's very little steering currents to move things along. You definitely have some weird things pop up. We sometimes call them whack-a-mole storms because of how random they can be. We're going to look for hail again because hail can do a lot of damage to vehicles and other things that are out there, livestock. And my goodness, we've got some very high values of vertically integrated liquid. This is the radar saying, okay, hey, how much liquid do I have within this column of air here between 220 and I-81? So from Salisbury to Springwood to Kyles Mills, Bessemer here, right there in between 630 and Route 11 and 220, some very high values of liquid up the vertical on the radar screen. So let's see what our values are here. One of the highest values you will see for hail, it doesn't go to 80. 80 is the cutoff, so we're at 79.54. We do have some hot air, so some of this is going to melt on the way down, but this could contain some very large hail, 1 to 2 inches in diameter is what I had on my Patreon today. And again, this is the Botetourt County storm. You're in the same group of warnings, but I wanted to kind of show you how within that polygon. It's just been issued. We actually have, it looks like, at least 3 good strong cells in terms of possible hail. The other second strongest is in Newcastle near Looney and Sinking Creek up 311 on 42 in the Craig County. Notice these values are much lower than the values here. One of the reasons for that is there's more wind shear the farther north you go from Roanoke, and these storms can organize more and they can produce larger hailstones because you're separating the updraft from the downdraft and they don't get choked off all that easy. From Rich Creek to Parisburg, a little bit of hail there. Looking at Blacksburg right now, we're going to go in on you. You've got some possible hail that's coming down. It looks like near Nob Hill, Highland Park, and Evergreen. Blackwood could be melting again, so it could just be pea-sized or less. I'm sure our meteorology students at Virginia Tech and our colleagues at the National Weather Service in Blacksburg, right there near the campus, will be telling us about that if they see anything major. Noticing on 311 now, right at Catawba 779 there where that old store is. You got McAfee Knob here off to the east, Bennett Springs, there's Mason Cove and Bradshaw Road. We've got a fair amount of hail indicated here. Now this isn't confirmed hail, this is the old way of doing it. We've got about 50 on the Ville, which is pretty significant here. Okay, so we're also going to look at the correlation coefficient, and we're looking for any colors that are not cranberry colored, and there are some lowerings out there, so more than likely you can see that's definitely hail or ice crystals that the radar is picking up aloft, and we're trying to find that on the other product there as well. Sometimes you can see a area of wind that's changing within the radar beam. I don't see that right here on this particular product. I do want to mention that Beckley, you were under a flash flood warning. That's a pretty mean warning there. You don't ever want to get caught out in flash flooding, especially at night. This is in effect until 9:45. 1 to 2 inches of rain's fallen, and this may be what happens in a lot of areas now. We may gradually turn down the severe threat, but we might crank up the flash flooding threat. So watch out in Beckley, Sophia, Daniels, Beaver, Shady Spring, MacArthur, Prosperity, Dry Creek, probably not so dry right now, Crab Orchard, Coal City, and Lester. That is for our friends up in West Virginia. And for those of you asking, yeah, I used to just cover the Roanoke Valley because that's where I worked when I worked at Channel 10 and 13. All rules are now fair game because of the internet. So I'm doing national stuff, I'm doing regional stuff, and this is just part of that right now. Buchanan's still seeing the storm now. It's going to be moving into Bedford County here very soon. It's going to be approaching Flat Top Mountain on 43. So for you folks in Bedford, we don't have a warning for you yet, but they are looking, the National Weather Service, at continuing this warning and moving it a little bit farther into Bedford County. So there will likely be another, perhaps smaller, but still good-sized polygon coming up as this continues to kind of move on through. Special weather statements now cover Tazewell in the Bland County. That also would include southern West Virginia here. We will read that to you. It's for another 20 minutes at 7:49. That was about, 6 minutes ago. We had very strong storms along the line extending from Oakville to Grundy. Movement was east at 25 miles per hour. You've got winds in excess of 40 miles per hour and pea-sized hail with this. Bluefield, Bland, Princeton, Richlands, Tazewell, Cedar Bluff, and Matoa. I can't say that word. I want to say Matlock. I'm sure it's not Matlock. Oaka is my best guess. But anyway, this is in effect for another 20 minutes or so. It's a special weather statement, just shy of a severe thunderstorm warning. It basically says that we're watching this and there's a fair amount of activity that we need to be concerned with. I'm going to erase some of these storm tracks here. You can see the incredible amount of lightning that we've got going on, and these are the colder cloud tops from Mullins, West Virginia. And when it glows like that, that is in real time. You are actually seeing the lightning popping up on your screen, and I can actually hover over each bolt and tell you how strong that lightning strike was. The whiter, larger strikes are the more powerful ones. Most of them come out of the bottom of a cloud, but some come out of the top, and those are the ones that are 10 times as strong and make a lot of noise when they strike an area. Roanoke just got an update in. They are continuing the severe thunderstorm watch until 10 p.m. That again is kind of a no-brainer because these storms are making their way across. And zooming it out here, giving you more of a kind of a general overview here. We've got two main clusters now, one around Fredericksburg and poor folks from Winchester down to Orange, and even Mount Weather, where they've got that secret government facility. I'm sure they're hunkered down with all that lightning and wind moving through there. This will be moving into the Chesapeake Bay very soon. One line already moved through. My sister gave me the picture to tweet out with a car narrowly missing the lady inside. Kind of scary there as well. Some small hail being reported, but some major damage up and around Harrisonburg. Lots of trees down, power outages, and you get the gist of that for sure. Now I'm going to look here at, we were just looking at VILs, so we don't need to look at that anymore, but we are going to look at this infrared satellite. If I can get my mouse to cooperate, give me 1 second. Okay. I know you're hearing all those tones. It's damage reports coming in from around the area. Okay, so you can see those higher cloud tops there in the gray and the red. That's where the air is already has been lifted up. And you can see these little indentions here where we've got kind of blotchy looking gray and kind of a faint blue. This is, let's do it this way. This is where we're seeing overshooting tops. So the storm is ingesting the air from below. And if I can get the right size, that'd be great. So we've got the more powerful storms pulling that air up, and it gets cold. It gets colder, and that's what we're measuring here, the coldness of the cloud top. So the higher they are, usually the colder they are. So you can see from the leading edge of these severe storms that have pushed through the Allegheny Highlands and are still around I-81 right now, a lot of flooding, in their wake. You can see why. These cloud tops up around 40,000 feet. You can also see that new area that hasn't gone too severe at the moment, but it's there from Hillsville to Floyd, right up Route 8, and now getting into western Franklin County. So we may have to take a look at that here in just a second. For those of you wondering, I've got like 5 computers going into one computer, and I tend to lose people sometimes, but it's important that I tell you everything, and if folks are listening, you can really learn something that may help you out. So this is the available energy. This is basically we're looking at areas that haven't been hit yet, but could be hit here very shortly. So this is Cape, and you see levels here around 3,000, also 3,000 around Lynchburg. Levels around 2,000, still very moderate to high. We had levels earlier up around 5,000, and that's where we had all that crazy wind up to the north of Interstate 64. And I tell you, the Patreon post, we missed it Friday, but the post today was right on it. So if you know anybody in the region that wants some weather, we're going to be doing more on Patreon on more of a regional thing. But what I want to also show you is the blues. This is where if you wanted to form a storm, you've got to overcome a little bit of convective inhibition at the surface. So the blue, think of that as like cool air near the ground. It's not going to want to rise, but if you get a strong storm that's already pulling up the air, it's going to overwhelm that, and it's still going to tap into this mixed layer cape. And that's one of the concerns the Storm Prediction Center had. Even with the sun setting, we're looking now at more of a mixed layer event, kind of seeing what's going on. Supercell Composite here. And again, this is when my numbers here will kind of drop off. But between 3 and 4, folks don't like looking at these maps. But Supercell Composite between 3 and 4 out ahead of the storm will, I think, keep it going. We've got a violent tornado parameter under 1. That's not great, but it could be higher. It's a lot higher up in Pennsylvania. See it up at the top of the screen there. Got some trees on power lines coming in on the scanner. Not sure what department that is. Now this is a look at the buoyancy of the air, the tendency of it to rise, looking at it from the mid layers all the way down to the surface. Kind of a simple way of looking at it, actually. And you can see the areas there in red are outlined, and that's where we have all the storms going on. You can also see that we've got wind shear showing up in these wind barbs here. So where you see more of the wind barb activity, so this is the instability, right? And so that's affecting more of Franklin County and where I'm at into the NRV and the Roanoke Valley. Well, the greatest shear is farther to the north, up across northern Virginia, denoted by all these winds that you're seeing up here. Notice there's not a lot of wind down here across North Carolina. But where they are overlapping is where we're seeing the most severe weather. We've got the spin, we've got the shear, we've got the energy, and sometimes it just all comes together, and it has to do something outside to balance everything out. And a lot of times it can do it in a real quick hurry. Now, downdraft cape is something we need to not take lightly. I almost consider this product, downdraft cape, almost as important as the tornado parameters we look at, because this downdraft cape was around the same, a little bit higher, just a few hours ago. Actually, I can show you. It was around 1200. Okay, that was when we had that incredible storm of 80 to 90 mile per hour winds up around Stevens City. It's at around 1200 right now in Bedford and Smith Mountain Lake in Franklin County. Now, does that mean we're going to see 80 to 90 mile per hour winds? Probably not, but the potential is there. If, again, any one of these updrafts with the storm wants to survive the mountains and get going, we certainly could see that happen. I want to show you some power outage info here. We've got a cluster there in northern Virginia. As you would imagine, Shenandoah County has 2,000 out, and we've got other areas with about the same. So across the state, we've got 15,000 out. And the local power outage info, which is not as delayed, showing that Charleston, West Virginia, wow, 5,079 out. Franklin County, fewer than 5, but these may be going up as the storms continue to move on off to the south and to the east. This is a cloud picture from space. We're starting to see these shadows cast, and where you see shadows, that's a good indicator too of a strong, healthy updraft. You're seeing those values there around 3,000. That's CAPE. It's calculated a little bit differently on this particular site, but it's the same principle here. So this is available energy for these storms that are coming off the mountains right now and coming out of the Allegheny Highlands to work with. They're going to come through. We've already got a bit of a boost there. I think that outflow just zoomed out of Blacksburg there and met up with some other boundary over Floyd County into Franklin County now. Looking out, I can see the sky's getting darker out my window as well. But 3,000 joules per kilogram on Cape, that's literally like a miniature bomb that goes off every time you have a thunderstorm develop. So pretty impressive stuff, but it's also dangerous. That's why you want to get away from windows and protect yourself from these storms if you get under a warning. Let's see, I'm looking on my weather wire here to see if I've got any other conversations and reports. They've been coming in almost non-stop. Quarter-sized hail, I think I read most of them to you. They're continuing the severe thunderstorm warning for Roanoke until 8:30. Pulaski, Rockbridge County until 8:30. That's just ahead of this line. Let me see if I can get you a different color scheme up. You might be able to see this better, or see the strength of the updraft, keeping those clouds and shadows cast here. And yeah, you can see the contouring, the wrinkling. These are overshooting tops, so the updraft takes it all the way past the top of the troposphere, which is where our weather is usually contained, and it's bursting through the top into the stratosphere. And there's been some studies done on that, but basically that's kind of a easy way to figure out that you've got an updraft that's stronger than even the lowest level of the atmosphere that's supposed to contain it. When it punches through like that, when you see these tops casting shadow, you know you've got some serious storms moving into the area. So let me zoom in a little bit more. So there's a healthy updraft, again, nearing Fincastle in Botetourt County. You've also got, again, 3,000 on Cape. You've got a 85-degree temperature in Lynchburg and 70 as your dew point. 87 in Campbell County, 71 is your dew point. Notice your wind is out of the south. Our winds aloft, I'm going to pop them up here. A little hard to see, but our winds aloft are out of the west. And that's at about 10 to 18,000 feet here. So you've got wind coming in like this. At the surface, winds coming in from the west. There's always a potential for something to spin if you can get enough lift and spin at the same time. So again, we can't rule out a tornado, but it's again straight line winds and flooding and hail that I am primarily concerned with on this. You can see just how it's blossoming and continuing to kind of hang on across the area. So we'll erase that for right now. Or get you back over and check on our radar real quick. This is off of, got you zoomed in kind of tight there. This is off of WeatherTap. Also shows me our storm spotters, which are in the area. It's kind of cool to see. Some of them, most of them don't work for me, but we all share data and we're all in this together. So I can see where they're at. Chris White's a great one. He works for Channel 7. There's some others. Kevin Myatt with the Roanoke Times is on here sometimes. And I can see where they're at. It helps me to figure out. So Chris White is in Bedford County. He's always in a good spot because this Botetourt County storm has law enforcement reporting power lines down 2 miles northwest of Buchanan. And that's going to be crossing now into the Bedford County area here very shortly. And we do have a brand new severe thunderstorm warning in effect for now Lynchburg, Bedford, and Campbell counties. That is for the Rockbridge County and Botetourt County cell, which is moving off to the south and to the east. This includes Lynchburg, Amherst County, southeastern Botetourt, Bedford County, all of Bedford County, Campbell County, and southeastern Rockbridge County until 9:15, so an hour and 5 minutes. Josh Gabrielson just told me on Facebook he's getting some hail. I think he's near Salem, so about pea-sized, and that makes sense. He's in this area right here. Notice that we've also got some development in the very heavy rainfall from Radford City, just outside of Pulaski. We're at 77 degrees to 76. But this is hitting the Roanoke Valley area right now pretty hard. But the strongest cell that I'm worried about is north of Vinton. And for those of you who don't know this area, this spot here near 24 on Vinton to western Bedford County was hit very hard near the Parkway just about a week ago from a storm that moved down, and it was all straight line wind damage, we think, but there was a lot of damage in that area. So if I overlay the cities here, we'll see what we're talking about in terms of roads and other locations here. Shady Grove, Applewood, Roanoke City obviously seeing the heavier rainfall right now, but Chandlersburg is in the path of this. You want to be taking shelter in your safe place away from windows. Kelso Mill, Curtis, Otterville, a bit of an inflow notch here. This is showing me that there's some circulation trying to get going, and almost inherently you're going to have a little circulation with these things, okay? They're going to continue to push off to the south. So I'd watch out in Bedford itself. I can see that Chris is now streaming to Brent, likely at Channel 7, who's using that stream. We're not going to violate any rules and take over what they're doing. They're doing good work as well. But they're continuing the severe thunderstorm warning for both areas now from the National Weather Service. Don't have anything coming in new. Okay, so it's Bedford County now. It's Lynchburg. Unfortunately, it's Forest that needs to watch out. Amherst County here down through Campbell County, Gladys. Again, this is a severe thunderstorm warning in effect until 9:15. One hint that these storms have a lot of forward momentum and a lot of wind is the fact that the warning comes out an hour before the storm hits you. That's the National Weather Service showing their confidence in that storm maintaining strength and putting out that large lead time because it's so serious a setup. They want to give you the maximum amount of lead time. In the future, these warnings will move with the storms, but that's a topic for another time here. So I imagine Roanoke is probably going to flood at least somewhat there on some of the low areas there, but you can see through Shawsville too, and the Merrimack and Blacksburg. Some areas of Montgomery County are indeed seeing that heavier rainfall, and fortunately it's feast or famine. And look at this. This was the heavier area that I was worried about on my Patreon page. I mentioned areas in northern Virginia, but we've also got this area that is surviving quite a bit here through Mercer County, West Virginia, where temperatures have cooled, but it's going to drop down through 19 and 77 here, and it may be hitting Russell County, Washington County, Smith County, Tazewell County. You need to buckle down in Richlands and Honaker as well as Dickinson County near Clintwood, down to Wythe and Max Meadows and Bland County. This is all sinking to the south, and honestly this looks a bit more intense in some ways than what we've got up in the Roanoke Valley area. 67 degrees in Greenbrier County, 85 still in Lynchburg. Lots of lightning there. This is something called Sat Squatch, and it's a pretty neat thing. Let me put on the satellite here. It's going to pop up for us automatically. We're going to go to our infrared. And again, when I'm live, I'm just kind of doing things on the fly, so you gotta have to bear with me here a little bit. But this is the infrared satellite. It doesn't label the cities for us, but we know where we're at. I'm going to help you out here. There's Roanoke. There's Bedford. You can see that 4,000 there. That's still where we've got the capes analyzed. There's several ways to analyze storm fuel and cape, but the fact that we've still got 4,000 there on the screen is a bit concerning. That's a lot of energy. So if these storms make it over the Blue Ridge, it looks like they will. Watch out Bedford, Franklin, and Amherst County, and I might have to take a break and email my Rocky Mount folks to let them know this is heading in. And notice as you continue down through Southside, you still got warm temperatures, but regardless, that humidity is still keeping you up around 3,000 to 2,000 in terms of Cape. So these will survive in some fashion. And there's also going to be another boundary that'll come out of the storms in Northern Virginia, almost like a miniature cold front. May have to watch that as it encounters that 4,000 joules per kilogram Cape near 460 there. So there could be some boundary collision and some redevelopment of some cells as these continue to move out of the Roanoke Valley and out of the Allegheny Highlands and out of Northern Virginia. Really the only areas that haven't been hit so far would be Franklin County down through I think Patrick County in the North Carolina and a good part of Southside. This has been finally just a mountain event so far, and we were telling you that would be the case. We can also look on this map here and show you the actual wind shear. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the Cape here. There's your surface-based Cape gone. We're going to look now at the significant tornado parameter, and it's hard to see, but we do have values at about 1/2 to 1. These are non-dimensional, but this is up just to the east of Harrisonburg. We've still got some spin going on there. That could be with that boundary that's kind of pushing off to the south, and I don't see anything else showing up except for this cluster here coming out of southern West Virginia, moving into Bland County and Tazewell County. Don't let the mountains fool you. You've got a little bit of a tornado risk there showing up as well. It doesn't mean you're going to get one, but it certainly can mean some crazy weather going on. We take you to the Supercell Composite, and it's in blue, and it's over blue, so it's a little hard to see. Let's do this. Again, a lot of this I just have to do on the fly, but you're getting to see the bread being made. Alright, so this is the water vapor. There's that dry air that probably helps with some hail development. And then the storms, throw the moisture up into that. But I did just this for one reason, and that's so you could see the amount of shear going on here. That's the Supercell Composite in blue, and that's the significant tornado parameter and the orange and the red. Notice there's a bullseye here just to the southwest of Fredericksburg, and this could be somewhat delayed, but again, I-64 runs right through there. There's Afton Mountain. Once you cross into Nelson County, Amherst County, this is an area you may want to watch over the next 1 to 2 hours as these storms continue to press on through. So 2 areas I'm really concerned about in terms of just looking at it from a rotational potential perspective is right through here, still in that zone, I-64 north, almost to Winchester and Stevens City. Storms that won't end. And now in southern West Virginia and southwest West Virginia, these storms are going to probably push south into Galax and Carroll County and the Independence. And in between, we've got just enough shear and instability to keep these things going out of Roanoke and Salem and Benton as well. If you have any reports, just let them know. Let me know on Facebook Messenger, and you can email me there as well. If you're a patron, you can hop on my Patreon. You can also hop on Twitter, and you can see everything that's going on there. I want to make sure my Lula is still working for our Instagram and TikTok folks. It is. All right. So we're getting a new cell developing in western Floyd County, Montgomery County. A moderate thunderstorm, very heavy rainfall now from Blue Ridge on down to Hardy Ford. Let's do this. I'm going to take off the cities. And what we're going to do is we're going to make our map a street level map anyway, so it'll be built into the map. We won't have overlays competing with other overlays. So we've got a white map back here, kind of like a old-fashioned road map, and it kind of shows you what's going on. So again, we still have this severe thunderstorm warning in effect until 9:15 for Amherst County. That's the top of where the National Weather Service really puts their alerts out, and then Nelson County picks it up from the National Weather Service in Sterling. I'd say Highway 60 looks pretty good, but just to the south and to the west of Highway 60 near Route 130, it's looking worse. And 501 coming out of Lynchburg looks pretty nasty as well. Power lines just reported down again in Botetourt County. This is now crossed into Bedford County, and so that's the concern. That's why Bedford, you are under a severe thunderstorm warning as well. There's now a new severe thunderstorm warning. It's just been issued for Franklin County, Floyd, Franklin, and Roanoke County for this cell as it continues to drop to the south and to the south-southeast. Let's see if it shows. Not yet. 1-inch hail, 60-mile-per-hour winds. This is until 9:15, so about a 50-55 minute warning with this one. So take cover, especially Smith Mountain Lake. If you're looking at the heavier potential here, it looks like there's a bow echo nearing the Bedford area. Let me check on that real quick. Okay, so we're going to go in here. We've got an outflow boundary approaching. There's your new polygon. Now includes Floyd County, all of Franklin County, all of Bedford County, Amherst, and all of Campbell County. Alta Vista, Gretna, Chatham. You need to watch this too. We're not sure if it's going to survive a few more hours, but you can see how the lightning just continues to roar with this as well. So I'm looking at, make sure I've got my wind right. And to do that, I have to manually place a marker here, go forward in time, and get a storm motion off of that. So this is moving off to the south-southeast at about 42 miles per hour according to my software. Now we'll look at the base velocity and see if we have anything going on strong. Now remember, this is relative to the radar. So if there is wind that's parallel to the radar going towards or away, it's not going to pick it up. It's radial velocity. So it's wind on a circular dimension, something folks tend to forget, even meteorologists sometimes. But I'm inspecting here, and we're in Bedford County. We're north of Manita, but we're just to the southwest of Bedford. And I do have a 39 mile per hour gust there showing up in the brighter red. I've got 42 miles per hour there. Getting reports out of West Virginia. Power lines down across I-64 in Greenbrier County between Lewisburg and Hart's Run. I-64 is closed in Greenbrier County. So there must be a big mess up there. We may be able to get a camera up there. I'm about to take a little break and we'll get maybe some more information here. Don't see any crazy strong winds through Roanoke, but you can never tell. The hail looks like it's also, well, let's see, dropped off some, but we could have some hail here into Bedford, just to the northwest of Bedford. This is going to be delayed somewhat. So this is coming right down 221, where it meets there 460, there 122 as well, coming out of Manita and Westlake Corner. So look at all this lightning jumping out from the storm, and a lot of these bolts will jump out 10 to 20 miles from the actual storm. So if you can hear the thunder, you need to get indoors. When thunder roars, head indoors. Here's an overall look at everything. I'm going to put this in motion. You can see just a massive amount of storm reports coming in across northern Virginia. Look at that. I mean, there's more icons than it is map up here across the Delmarva and the West Virginia Panhandle. But you can see that cluster that's hanging on just enough for us to have to do these updates. I want to show you the outflow boundary. Watch this. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. I was looking for that on the other product a second ago. But if you look right here, it'll be in the light blue. Watch the cool air rush out from this storm. That's a miniature cold front. So right here, right when they put the warning out, that outflow boundary had made it almost to my house and into Floyd. And that's why they put the warning out, because this is cool air that's slamming into the warm air. So the new zone here is probably going to be from Lynchburg and Amherst down through Rocky Mount here very carefully. Since I'm employed on a contractor basis with Rocky Mount, I'm going to hop off here real quick, let the leaders know what to expect, and I'll jump back on as soon as I can with more live coverage of these storms as they move through. Stay safe and stay weather aware, folks.